TVO digital media producer Tim Alamenciak has written a feature article on the state of the Great Lakes, and he joins us now to tell us more about that piece and about what we've got going online at tvo.org/Great Lakes. Tim, good to have you back here in our studio.
Good to be here, Steve.
Tell us what you've got going online.
Well, we're going to be covering the public forum on the Great Lakes next week. We'll have our entire digital team working on it. We're going to be publishing a piece about wind power in Lake Ontario. We're going to be publishing profiles of each of the Great Lakes. And of course, we're going to be publishing a feature that I wrote for which I traveled to some key areas in the Great Lakes and reported on the state of the lakes.
Great Lakes on the precipice. Why are they on the precipice?
We're really at a time right now when there are a number of historical damages to the lakes that we are still working on repairing, but looking to the future, the threats that climate change presents are quickly coming, and it's not going to wait for us to finish cleaning up the areas of historical damage. The way that I look at it is kind of like somebody who has a massive heart attack, and these areas of concern are the quadruple bypass surgery that needs to happen to fix that damage. And then, of course, after that surgery is done, you have to address the root causes and get better exercise and eat better and everything like that. And those are the sort of pressures that are coming with climate change. We're seeing more frequent, intense rainfall. We're seeing periods of drought. And all of this has a profound effect on the lakes, but we're still working on cleaning up contaminated sediment or improving wastewater plants in areas of the Great Lakes.
I have heard, though, that they are better now than they were, say, 25 years ago. Is that fair?
That's fair, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of work done, a lot of investment, but the fact remains that, you know, Canada has only delisted 3 areas of concern. And looking at those delisted areas is very interesting because Severn Sound, for example, I spoke with the head of the Severn Sound Environmental Association.
Where is that, first of all, Severn Sound?
That is on the western edge of Ontario,
okay.
And it's on the shores of Lake Huron. So the head of the Severn Sound Environmental Association talked about the constant work that's required to maintain the delisted status. They were delisted in 2003, and he and his association are still working to make sure that it doesn't fall back into disrepair. And this includes things like pushing for enhanced sewage treatment when the population in Penetanguishene expands over capacity of the current plant.
I know this is probably obvious on the face of it, but they're delisted because they're no longer areas of urgent concern. Is that the idea?
That's the idea, yeah. So in 1987, when they first talked about all of these areas of concern, there are certain, they call them beneficial use impairments. So being able to swim in the water or eat fish from the water. And each of those were identified for 17 Canadian areas of concern. Out of those 17, 5 are joint responsibility between Canada and the US. And so there's sort of this massive checklist of things to do in these areas. And it's everything from what I mentioned about the beneficial use impairments. Some areas have contaminated sediment. The Randall Reef in Hamilton Harbor is a prime example of that.
So we want to get as many places delisted as possible. That's the mission.
Absolutely, yeah. But at the same time as we're focusing on trying to delist these places, the pressures are mounting in other parts of the lakes. Zebra mussels and quagga mussels have really proliferated along the bottom of the lakes. And I spoke with Sue Watson, a brilliant scientist who's an expert in algae, and she talked about how these mussels actually convert the runoff into something that is more nutritious for algae. So these runoff targets that we set in sort of the 90s now may lead to more algae growth because we have these invasive species to process the runoff.
Okay, let's conclude here by reminding everybody we've going to have a team of TVO producers down here at the forum all week long. We're going to be reporting live. We've got our social media feeds going and all that?
That's right, yeah. And in addition, Nam Kiwanuka will be on the ground speaking with experts and stakeholders and people who are attending the public forum. And we'll be posting a live stream, and we'll also be posting segments on the website as they come up.
Gotcha. Do you know where that water comes from, Tim?
Probably Lake Ontario.
Not probably, definitely Lake Ontario. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's still darn good from what I hear. Yes, it sure is. Okay, Tim, thanks so much for this.
Thanks.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.